The definition of the word art form was conventionally established to form of artistic composition, such as a novel or any activity regarded as a medium of imaginative or self-expression.
Go on, boys, you got it, you fucking got it. Well fucking done.
Yes.
Yes!
Yes!
Come on!
Now, programming in general and game mechanics and just coding, be it games or not, is an art form. Some people would agree with me because some of the best code you'll see in the wild looks beautiful. To a programmer, of course. To people that haven't had a chance to see code in action or learn coding, it's just a mumble of incoherent symbols. But to programmers, you can see the difference between good and bad code. You can see what is beautiful code. You can see what is fluent, what is clear.
Okay, how many of us are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need a 6th person. Join us.
I'll join.
There we go. So,
And making a game itself is also pretty artistic, because you make all sorts of modules. You make this interacts with this. You have this is what you show to the player. This is what runs in the background. But if they don't interact nicely, if they don't create a melody, an abstract melody, I guess, then it's not maintainable. It doesn't work well. Any bugs will be a lot worse than you'd expect, and it will cause frustration not only to just the programmers but also to the players. You want the players to never see an error. And how do you do that? Good code.
So on this project, this is only mine and Thomas's project. He has a different project he's working on. How we started making this game was we had a challenge to make a story-based, text-based genre game. And we said, well, let's put in a few graphics. And they were like, hey, why not make a visual novel out of it? And if we're going to make a visual novel, we decided to make it a more parody kind of style. So we're not doing a traditional visual novel in which the main goal is to get the girl. We have 2 concept arts made already on 2 of the chases. But that's what we can show right now. We also have a storyboard ready, but yeah.
Well, it's not really anything to show because it's not like a text base or anything. It's your writing, so
yeah,
let's not make the viewers' eyes bleed. Okay?
In this part, you have to input name, you have to put your personal name. And the first input, regardless what you put, will be, sorry, that's not Slav enough to be my name. Next input will be like saying, pretty cheeky name, but not very bricky. If you want explanation what this joke is, it's cheeky bricky of donkey. When you
it's an internet meme, just look it up.
It's a Russian idiom. Idiom.
this is why Rage is not allowed to dry anymore.
Technically, the light should fall in like that, and since she's turned away, half of the face should be in shadow.
But the body is like, fuck you.
Because at the beginning we were just trying to measure each other out. We didn't have like any big project. Like, yeah, we're making this. Like, this is our project. I didn't want to make those kind of things. And I basically said just make up something. And how the best way to make that is to make each other think of a topic, which would be hard to make a game for, and then give that topic to somebody. Making a game is very hard. People don't know. Like we all know that guy who was, I want to make a video game that has dragons and orcs and ponies and flying tits. Yeah, and they're like, yeah.
I'd say definitely some similarities. I think video games have a slightly different mechanism because you have a multiple branching story in many games. So you have to, it's like the kind of books that you used to read as a child, which is, when you get to the end, you should pick, option A, go to page, go to page 47 or go to page 97. And those books are not really known for kind of, their literary character and style for a reason. I think it makes it much harder to tell a kind of legitimate story when you have different branching arcs. And I think they are more immersive in some ways. Because you feel more like you're actually part of the game because you're kind of controlling your character and you're making decisions for them quite often. Whereas in books, you are the observer. And books can be incredibly immersive because you're using your imagination, but I think it's a different kind of immersion that you get with video games.
The idea is the thing. It's the same as almost any other form of art or business or anything else. If you've got the right idea to start off with, you can build on that. You can iterate. You can end up with a decent product in the end. But if you haven't got the idea, then however much work you put in is never going to turn out right. One of the first games that someone of my age would have played, Tetris. Who would have thought that the idea of different shaped blocks falling from the ceiling and making it into a wall would be so addictive? Has absolutely no story arc in it whatsoever. That didn't stop it being a hugely addictive game when it came out, and still is. Whereas something like Remember Me by Don't Nod, the whole game is the story arc. There's no reflexes. There's a certain amount of puzzles, but it's the story that ties the whole thing together. They're two extremes, and most games fall somewhere in the middle. They try and put a storyline on there. They try, and in some cases they succeed. In my experience, generally indie games tend to succeed more if they bother with it. I would say that a video game hasn't got to have a story to be a good game. Just that most good video games do have a story.
Yeah.
If you've got a story, if there's a context, then you'll tend to get more emotionally involved in it and know what's going on. It's got to give you enjoyment. It's got to give you that endorphin rush, or that satisfaction, or that adrenaline rush, or feed into something that you're interested about.
You're getting more games that are very filmic, maybe to the point where it's maybe less of a game actually, where it's more of a story being told with small bits of gameplay implemented into it. I think of an example. Naughty Dog's The Last of Us is a classic example of really heavily debated is it more of a film or is it more of a game, because it's got a great story, but a lot of it is just kind of beautifully rendered sort of cutscenes and cinematics and etc. Especially because obviously you're not going to get camera angles in side scrollers or any sort of 2D arcade games, but I think in any kind of highly produced game, franchise or one-off title, I think especially when telling a story and in cutscenes and cinematics, they use a lot of cinematic techniques. Like going back to The Last of Us again, that in some parts feels like a film even when you're playing the game. It's all the techniques, so kind of suspense, off-screen stuff, all camera angles to show an emotion, camera angles to show a certain character, mise-en-scène, everything. Like they really do utilise it, and I think in a way in the future film and games are almost going to be blending together.
I'm going to lift you up, I'm going to get you over here. Come on, baby, come on, work with me, please. God, baby. Sarah. Sarah! Don't do this to me, baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Come on.
I would definitely consider video an art form. Yeah, without a doubt. Unequivocally, completely. I think multiple reasons. I think to a large extent you can compare video games as kind of as a whole product, as a kind of a new form of art, which I think is starting to happen kind of in the general world, hopefully a bit more as time goes by and more people play video games. You tend to realise that it's a new art form all of itself. But I'd also say kind of comparatively, if you look at video games just from a kind of a visual aesthetic point, just look at a screenshot of some of the video games, you can quite easily compare that to a painting.
I think that transfers over to video games, because video games, it's almost the next step up from films, because you have personal involvement at the same time as having the story that comes with a film. And so I think video games have even more flexibility in becoming an art and becoming a really involving art.
Because it can pass on messages and it can produce emotions in the person who's playing or the person who's watching. I'd said that any art form has to do one or both of those. And video games clearly do that. Not every video game is art, but the majority are.
And some people will say no, it's not art form because it does not follow all the meaningful things and doesn't allow the artist to express themselves to the fullest. That's a personal opinion, but I personally think everything you do that has a bit of yourself is the art form.
Games are art form. The very fact that you can express yourself and get that expression, that emotion to other people, and they can then consider that beautiful or ugly, interesting or not interesting, that is what art is.